Um, Councilwoman, what was, just your initial reaction to this, violence, in your community erupting last night?
Um, it's never hard to hear about a shooting. Mass shootings unfortunately happen very often in this country. And obviously, as the mother of a gun violence survivor, I know what that feels like, unfortunately. And it's not just the mass shootings, right? It's the day-to-day shootings that happen in our communities. And my heart broke, especially hearing that it was a 14-year-old child, right? This is a kid, this is someone's baby, um, that was taken from us. And my heart broke. My heart absolutely broke. And there are no words, right? No parent, wants to deal with this. No parent wants to go through this. And quite frankly, do they want to hear our condolences? I don't know that they do. It's another one of those moments where it's like, sorry for your loss. And it's like, I don't want to tell that family sorry for your loss. I'm sorry that they lost their baby, but why does this keep happening? That was my initial reaction. Why? Why are we here again? Why are we here again?
I think it's so heavy, especially to to hear you speak about it and to be so close to 514 2 years later. What goes through your mind when we think about moving forward and trying to talk progress, and then here we are dealing with another issue?
Absolutely, every day, right? Our lawmakers are, across the state, across the country. Many of them are pushing for gun reform and, you know, getting the guns off the streets. And then it's like, right? It's a slap in your face because it's like, I mean, like, how many more guns, right, do we need to recover? How many more mothers and fathers have to cry at the loss of their kid before we do something about the guns in this country and on our streets and in our communities, taking our 14-year-old babies from us? It it defies all reality. Like you don't even know what to say, right? When I was talking to the chief this morning, that's the first thing I asked him. Like, I want to talk to the family. Like, this is it's hurtful. It is hurtful. I'm exhausted. I know these families are exhausted. Unfortunately, this is something that they have to deal with. Um, but that doesn't make them feel any better, right? We lost a 14-year-old girl and five others are shot and injured, right? We have to think about what does life look like for them in the years to come, right? I'm dealing with that literally right now with Zaire. And being a survivor of gun violence and the mental anguish that they're going to go through. How do we make them feel better? How do we make them feel safe in our communities? I don't have an answer for that, unfortunately, because it hits so close to home and it's so personal. Like, I wish that I could take this back from them. I don't want anyone to feel that feeling. Um, I don't know what it's like to lose a kid. I know what it's like to almost lose a kid. And I'm heartbroken. I'm heartbroken as a mother. I'm heartbroken as a community member. I'm heartbroken as a government official. I'm disgusted, quite frankly, with our country and the way that, we just so easily take lives, right? We don't think of it as these are humans, these are people, these are people a part of our community. We're just so I don't have the words. I'm just gonna be honest. I don't have the words, but I'm angry for these families. I am. I am angry. These are babies. These are children that are gonna be traumatized for the rest of their lives around this, right? And one family doesn't get to have their kid today. And as a community, we should all be disgusted. we should all be angry. You know, like it really hurts. And, you know, for me, it is about galvanizing our community and our lawmakers across the state and across the country and our community members, right? Are we, you know, I'm calling for a ceasefire, right? Enough, enough. Like, how many more kids? How many more people? You know, I've said this before. This is not a simulation. This is not a movie, right? Like, these are real people. And quite frankly, we all should be angry. I am angry. Everyone in the community should be angry. Every lawmaker in the city, in the country, in the state should be angry because we can't make this better for these families. We can't make it better. And so we need to put our minds together and we need to come out and call for a ceasefire in the city of Buffalo because someone's baby. That is someone's baby that was taken from us.
Have you had a chance, Councilwoman, to speak with the family of the 14-year-old girl or any of the families yet? And
I
what have
have
you said
not
to them?
yet.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I have not had an opportunity yet to speak to the families at all. But obviously that will be a priority for me because I take this personally. I have spoken, you know, with the mayor's office and I've been in constant contact with the Buffalo Police Department. And, you know, I want the families to know that I care. I care. I
The
do. Because
the
that's their baby. And I don't know what I can do, what support I can offer to them, but to just let them know that I care.
the person or persons who pulled the trigger, I mean, they're out on the streets. What is your
Mm.
message to them if they see this?
My message to them is that this is enough. Enough. If you have a gun in your possession, turn it in. If you are the person who carried out this shooting or played a part in it, turn yourself in. This is our community. The lives of the people in this community are precious. Their life is precious, right? Like the choices that you're making are not just your choices. Those choices have consequences. Someone has lost their life, others are injured. You're going to go to jail. Now, your family is going to be traumatized and they're going to have to deal with things because of the choice that you made. So, yes, if you had any part in this, turn yourself in. Buffalo, our community, like we have to stop and we have to stand up and we have to start speaking out against this nonsense. It's nonsense, quite frankly. It's nonsense and we have to stop it.
Is there a larger conversation that should be had about youth in our community in Buffalo? We're talking, you know, when you see people at home see ages 14 to 16 involved in
Mm,
something like this, you hear about, you know, the stolen car situation and youth involved in a lot of things revolving around crime. Is there a larger conversation? How do we begin to help the youth in the city of Buffalo?
yeah. There is a larger conversation, right? This goes back to, you know, the conversations I've been having about suspensions and things like that. It's what are we providing for our kids in the city of Buffalo, right? What outlets? Yes, there are many things out there for our youth to get involved with, to keep them out of the streets, to keep them busy, right? And listen, I'm a single mother, so I get it, right? I get that you can't always be there and watching your kids. And so as a community, we have to figure out how are we best serving our youth and how are we best serving the families, right? Because when we think about it, it's not just this kid got into a fight or there was a shooting or anything like that. It's what happened the day before, right? What is happening in their lives, in their households, in their minds, right? Like what is going on with that person? We have to start focusing on the whole person. It can't just be this student got into a fight and now they're suspended, right? What is leading up to those behaviors? That is what we have to get at. We can't just start with, you know, suspending kids. I've said this many, many times. Kids are going to get in trouble, right? It's just the nature of the world. I used to get in trouble. All kids get in trouble, right? But they have to be held accountable and they have to be responsible for those choices that they make. But what are we doing to support them on the back end, right? Like, what are we focusing and drilling down on what's going on with these kids? What are they dealing with in the household, right? So I think for me, it's not so much about the act, right? It's about what is causing these kids to act out and to do these things. That is where my focus is. It's the root cause, quite frankly, of the issues that we're seeing that are displayed in our school buildings and out in our community. And this just underscores exactly that, right? We have youth out and about at 11 p.m. at night, right? How can we best support these kids? How can we best support the families? That is what I'm trying to get at. And I'm going to keep that at the forefront of my mind. And yes, it has to be a larger conversation. Again, it cannot just be these kids are acting out, because I hear people say that all the time. Yeah, they're acting out, but why? Right? And so that is the larger conversation that I want to see happen moving forward.
Yeah, do you recall any shootings or incidents where so many children were impacted at once? I know obviously we've had the top shooting, but to hear six kids ages 14 to 16 at once. I've lived here for 5 years. I don't recall something in that time frame where so many people were, so many kids were impacted at once.
Yeah, no, not to my knowledge, not in Buffalo, but obviously mass shootings across the country, right? We don't need to, no one forgot about Uvalde and Sandy Hook and, all those shootings. And so, no, not to my knowledge in the city of Buffalo, but any one kid being shot and killed in any community in this country is too many for me.
What's the next step moving forward as we start this week to try to push for change?
The next step is just making sure that the families know that they're supported, right? Obviously, um, the young girl who was shot and killed, making sure that her family knows that they are supported, making sure that they have the resources that they need, but also the survivors, and making sure that, counseling services are there for them and provided for them. And then for me, the next step is, how can we support you moving forward? How can we make sure, are we, should we be having well, I shouldn't say should we should be having conversation with the youth that were involved in this shooting, and starting with the ones that were shot. How do they feel that we can best support them, right? Asking them directly, what do you need? And then talking to the families, of course, how can we support you? And then, yes, it needs to be a larger community conversation around gun violence on our streets, in our neighborhoods, because, yes, 6 children were shot yesterday, but we have day-to-day violence in our community and on our streets. And I'm over it. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of hearing about it. I don't want to hear about another person shot. I don't care how old they are. It's exhausting. It's exhausting. Like, these are human lives. And as a community, we have to drill down and figure out what those solutions look like.
Councilwoman, how, in your position now in City Hall, are you able to, go about affecting change in this, with these kind of situations? Do you have any sort of, I guess, concrete plan or anything that
Yeah.
you're thinking that comes to mind for you?
Yeah, for me, it's about doing what I've been doing over the last 2 years, right? It's about traveling around the country, right? Going to different communities, talking to different community groups and finding out what are they doing in their neighborhoods. Is that working? Do you have a best practice, right, in dealing with youth and keeping them off the streets and keeping guns out of their hands? That's what I've been doing, working with the Office of Gun Violence and Prevention through the White House, and speaking to, organizations like Fun Peace out in New York City. And I have been on the ground listening and just trying to learn, right? For me, it is about learning. I don't know the answers to everything. I wish I did, but I don't. I do not have a magic wand, but I do know that there are communities out there doing some really good work around keeping our youth off the streets. And I think that it's going to take a lot more of that. That's my plan and that's my goal. It's drilling down on what are other communities doing to keep guns out of the hands of kids, and how are they supporting our youth after a situation like this arises. And so for me, that's what it's about. It's continuing those conversations, continuing to reach out and increase our network for the city of Buffalo, and making sure that, these groups know that, we're dealing with the same stuff. How can we come together and figure out a solution? Because again, I've said this many times, the city of Buffalo, the east side of Buffalo is not unique. There are communities just like the east side across the country, and they're dealing with similar issues. And so if we're all coming together, sitting at the table, having these conversations and gleaning from each other, figuring out what are you doing that's working? What are we doing that's not working, right? I think that that's what it's going to have to continue to take, and it has to stay consistent. It can't just be a one-off.
Anyone else? All right, thank you all for taking the time to speak with Zeneta. Is there anything else you wanted to add, or are you good?
I'm good.
All right,
Thank you, Zeneta. Thanks, Mike.
thank you. Thanks, guys.